Good morning, everyone. It's Kiersten from Kiersten Red Resales. Today, I'm gonna do something a little different. Yeah, let's see. I had gotten a few requests over the last month or two for me to do a little teaching video on how to repair a cracked stone for jewelry. Not semi-precious stones or precious stones, but like that's kind of like a turquoise or a rock. Okay, this is a bead, large one, turquoise, and you can see here that it is cracking here. Where else? There's a big one starting to fish all the way around there. It's going here like this. Can't be used as it is right now because it will, if it got knocked from something, the whole thing would just break apart. Bear with me. I've never done a tutorial on a small scale like this. If anyone knows anything about me, my background is in stone carving, and it's basically the same principle as large scale stone carving as it is in small scale stones. And I'm trying to, for this video, I'm trying to use things that you might have around the household or you can get at your local hardware store. So none of these are specialty items designed specifically for jewelry, making stones or carving stone, except for maybe these files. But these files are fairly common and you can get similar things at a hardware store if you don't already have one. These are kind of trashed, as you can see, they're a little rusted, so I can't really use those on my sculpture anyway as it is. So I'm just going to go over some tools first, okay, and some safety. I know we're all adults here or whatever, but I still need to go over some safety rules. Anytime you're using any sort of power tool, you need to protect your eyes. So eye protection is a must. These you can get even at the dollar store if you don't want to spend money, or you might have it in like your garage or carport or wherever, okay? If you do not, at least put a big pair of sunglasses on, just something that is protecting your eyes, so if a little shard of anything, your eyeballs will be protected. I prefer you to wear safety glasses as opposed to sunglasses, but something is better than nothing. Also, when you are using any sort of stone with a power tool, whether it's just a little tiny little power tool or a big power tool, we all have these, don't we? You must wear a mask, okay? Even if you're outside doing this. A lot of stones, your body cannot expel in themselves. There are toxic stones like granite. There's certain stones that your lungs, silicosis, it causes it. It'll stick in your lungs, and it causes all sorts of harm, okay? So I know it's not comfortable, but since we're getting so used to wearing these anyway, wear a flippin' mask, okay? Okay, that being said, let's see here. So normally for a little project like this, I would be using a thing called a Fordham, which is an expensive, fancy type of Dremel, but not everyone has that. Most people don't, but a lot of people have Dremels. So this is a cordless Dremel. Any hardware store, this and that. You do not need to have any power tools to do what we're doing here, okay? It just makes it quicker, okay? So let me just say that we don't need to have one of these to be able to fix a stone. So anyway, this is a Dremel. Not scary. It can go low, high. I didn't charge the battery good enough. Oh boy, well, whatever. Let me go charge the battery while we're finishing this little talk we're having. There we go. Okay, charge up. So anyway, this is a Dremel. Not scary. You have full control over how fast or whatever, okay? It comes with you can change the tips up very easily, okay? You just press a button and I have, well, the little tool. I've been around the block here with my tools, so like I don't know where my little tool is, but I loosen it this way. You press it, you turn it, you loosen it, and these can be changed out. So I'm going to show you some of the little things I use when I'm doing this. If anything would go properly this morning. I hope everyone's doing well. Okay. So I'm just gonna go over some of the little attachments I'm gonna be using, or that I will have used, okay? So this is for Dremel. This is for masons. This is a masonry bit, and it comes with a small Dremel kit. There's different sizes, shapes, whatever, okay? This is for me to just, basically it's a type of sanding, okay? It's like a grinding stone. Like when you sharpen knives, you know, same idea. This is just gonna grind down any high bits or anything I'm using, any of the adhesive glue I'm gonna be using. This, you can see I've used it, all that right there, okay? And then we have, this is it's a type of cutting stone. It's called a cutting wheel, and this is for stone. And this is when you put on your little Dremel, or if you had a Fordham, you know, and it cuts through. It makes dents. It can carve shapes with it, okay? And you can see it. This one has diamonds infused in it. See all that little there? See how shiny and pretty? So it's very hard because diamond tipped any tools are very hard tool. They can stay sharp. They last longer. They're superior. They're more expensive. Then we have little tiny sanding discs, but we'll get back to that. We have little grinding wheels. So these are two different sandpapers. This is a 60 grit. No, this is an 80 grit, excuse me. And this is a 100 grit. Then we have little sanding discs. Now this is a sanding disc. They go from like 60 all the way up to like 1,000. So when you're using stone, when you're smoothing things out, you start with the lower number. On this project here, you do not need to start as low as a 60. That is very rough, okay? I'd probably start, I think on this one I started at maybe it was like an 80 or 100, and then I worked my way up to about an 800, okay? Then you have these little things called polishing wheels. And they come in different shapes. And then we have, this fell out. This is the polishing compound. So you have this in your little tool. I dip it in my polishing compound, and I, get it on there, and I turn this on low, and I start polishing up my stone. Okay. Did I go over the basic stuff? I think I did. These are all the basics. But then we have files. Like, you really use what works, what's gonna work. So you kind of have to play it by ear. So I'm sure you're all kind of confused and saying, Kiersten, what the hell are you talking about? Excuse me, what the heck are you talking about? I don't know, you'll see. I'm sorry, you'll see. Okay, we're going back to the stone. Okay, so you've got this great necklace, okay? And you notice that there's like cracks in it, and you're like, oh no, what am I gonna do? I don't wanna trash it. I don't wanna take it to a jeweler and pay a couple $100s to have this fixed, okay? I'm gonna show you what to do. Now, I'm fortunate enough that I had a donor stone. It's the same stone, okay? And you see this down here. So if you don't have an extra piece of stone laying around, you can go and get either color pigment from like a Michael or any like art supply store. A pigment though, which is a powder, okay? You just pick a closest match that you can to the stone that you're working on. So if you're working on, a terracotta looking stone, get like a brown or a terracotta powder, okay? You can also use sand, colored sand, okay? Now the thing is, what you have to do, just like, see how this is chunky? This won't work, okay? You need to make this into like a powder almost. So if you have like a mortar and a pestle, that will be great. What I was doing, because I can't find our mortar and pestle, put some in a little bowl and just a spoon, old school, excuse the sound. It's gonna be a little, icky. And I just grind it as much as I can, until I can come up with a fairly nice powder. So you're gonna go from that to this, okay? Now, this is, in my opinion, the best way to do it, because this is the actual stone, okay? And it's a nice fine powder. So I don't know if you've been to a beach or just like picking rocks outside, like river rocks, whatever. When they're wet, their color just becomes super brilliant. But when they're not wet and they're dry, you lose the the brightness and the richness of the color. Same here. So, you know, this looks kind of just like powder blue, but when this gets set with my resin that I'm going to be using, well, actually I'm not using resin today. I'm not sure what I'm using yet. It's going to look not exactly this because you have to polish it, but it's going to be much more of a true blue. Here, let me show you what this looks like. I'll be right back. Let me get a little thing of water. Okay, so I just wet it so you can see how much more the color is coming out. Do I have a little piece to show you compared to that? It's subtle, but trust me, when it is polished up, it's gonna look like that. Okay. So usually when a rock is cracking, it is because there's fault lines. All of the matrix and everything that I particularly love in turquoise and other stones as well, it gives it character, shape, form. You see objects in it. Each one of these are actually other rocks and different densities. And so it causes fault lines. So you can see this is just, you know, riddled with them. And so when you're fixing it, that actually helps in your behalf. It's easier to hide when you're filling that in, okay? So, oopsie, I got water here. So we first know we need a donor rock, stone, or you can get colored sand that matches. It doesn't be an exact match, but a similar match. Or so sand or color pigment, okay? So that's what you need to be able to fill this. Now, what you're gonna do, and after you grind it down, if you get a pigment, it's already ground down, okay? Sand, you need to grind it down to a real nice powder, okay? It has to be very powdery. Okay, so then you have your little powder. This isn't as fine as I normally would like it. You've got it ground down, okay? Now, there's different thoughts, philosophies. You can use a 2-part epoxy resin. Now, when I'm using this kind of stuff with my stone carvings, I buy specialty 2-part epoxy resin that is UV protected so it does not yellow. Most of the time, the kind you get at a hardware store or just your local little, Ace or whatever is not that, okay? If it's in a piece of jewelry, it probably is not going to make that much of a difference unless you're fixing a white, cream, light pink, a light colored stone, where over time it might change the color. It might turn a little yellowy, okay? It might not, but it might, okay? But with stone carving, if it's an outdoor piece, it's most certainly going to turn. And it doesn't turn for a while, but someone's spending money on a big, beautiful carving, they don't want if it has a crack and you fix it, they don't want that to turn yellow, okay? There's all different types of mason. So you can go to a hardware store, you can ask them, I need a glue or a bonding agent for masonry, because masonry, guess what, is stone, okay? So yeah, so I'm going to be using a thing called Weld Bond Mason, okay? And I've never used this stuff before. I use, like I said, a specialty stuff that I special order, but for today's, I want it to be something that everyone can get. So, oh boy. So what I'm going to do, we're going to do 2 different little things here. Now, you want to make sure whatever you buy is the kind that will dry clear, okay? Do not buy something that is colored because it's going to change everything. It's going to change the stone. It's going to change the color. It's not going to look good. It's going to be very apparent, okay? So you take whatever, the 2-part epoxy resin, whatever you're using, okay? And you're going to make a little mixture. I put a little too much of this glue because I've never opened this particular one. I had a little sample that I used last night. And you're literally mixing it with your powder. Let me get some more. Okay. You're making like a concoction of stone dust, and a settling agent. A setting agent. Okay. Okay. Oh, I'm using chopsticks. I always save extra chopsticks because they're great for any sort of craft project. Honestly, I love them. Okay, so let's see here. Let me find where to go. from a big old crack. So we've got this crack here, okay? So I'm gonna put my compound, I should be using like a little spatula. Let me get a little spatula. Especially what I'm using is literally I'm trying to stick with things that people would have, like a tiny little screwdriver flathead, and I'm going to be pushing it into the crack. Okay, I'm filling in the crack. Sorry, it's hard to see over the camera. Am I still in frame? Yeah, okay, filling in the crack. Now this is going to take a little patience, guys. Okay, it doesn't, you have to wait for it to settle. And I'm working at one crack at a time for this video because there's a couple on here that I'm going to eventually have to fix. Okay, so right now you're like, oh no, it's white. Yes, it's white now, but when it dries, it's going to take the color. Remember, it dries clear, and I have the stone pigment in here, the powder. So it's going to dry with that color pigment on this, okay? Just like I showed you. Where is it? The inside of the stone, okay? Now, the cleaner you get this after you have it pushed into the cracks, the less cleanup work you're going to have, okay? So you're literally just pushing this into the crack. I'm using my fingers. If you're using okay, I use my hands all the time and I'm horrible, okay? So don't do this. Don't use your fingers. If you want to use gloves or, I don't know. I'm me and I always use my fingers. That's why my hands look the way they do. Okay, so I'm gonna let this dry. Now all these take different amounts of time to dry. Okay, and then I will be able to see, oh, look, I missed one little area. Wow, my camera's having a hard time. Okay, let's see. Okay, I missed a little area right there. So now that I see that, I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna grab a little bit more of my mixture and I'm gonna, whoa, no, oh no! Ah, I'm sorry, did I make you sick? I didn't mean to. Okay, we're all good now? Sorry guys, sorry. Wow, it isn't one of my videos unless, something happens, huh? I'll have to put a warning. The camera falls. If you have vertigo, close eyes at this number. Okay, so you would let this dry. Oh my gosh, please focus. There we go. So I filled in that hole, crack. I'm gonna let this dry for whatever amount. Usually it's a bunch of hours, like X amount of hours, okay? So after you let this dry, you will come back. Let's see, I'll just keep using this one just for an example until I show you the next step. You let it dry, so pretend that's over here, okay? It's completely dry. That's when you come into all the different sanding stuff, okay? So you would feel it to see like how much is sticking out, how much you see, and you literally, sometimes it's not even that bad. Sometimes you don't even need to worry about any of this stuff. All you need to do is the different sandpapers. So you would come in with like a heavier grit. I'm just using this because this is the little tool that I have with my Dremel. And you literally will go over where you filled in and you start sanding, okay? Keep sanding it, okay? And then you get past one level, you go to the next level sandpaper, like I said. So you can start at 100, 120. Okay, let's say you start at 120, you do 120, then you go up to 200, and you keep going up, okay? That's what I do, okay? If it's real rough and bumpy because you didn't clean it up so great, then that's when I would come in with like a real thicker sandpaper, like a 60 or 80. Now this is going to cause more trauma to the stone, you'll see, but it also cleans it up very quickly, okay? Okay. Now after you've done all of your levels of sanding, you're going to go into your polish. Okay, so I'm going to show you a piece that I worked on last night with the same exact technique that I used here, if anyone could even understand anything I'm saying. Okay, so this rock had a fault line. It was completely cracked from here all the way around, all the way. This whole top piece was off. Now I left a bit here so you could see where it started and so I could remember. Now if you look, okay, let's see here. What's that? Why is it on there? I don't know. This has all been filled in. Okay, that was all filled in exactly the same way that I'm doing this one right there. And you can still see, if you really look carefully, you can see a little bit of a line, okay? But it's a lot better than a big, deep gouge like that, okay? Then what I did, after I had done all my sanding, I came in. This is paste wax. It's just a type of wax you could use on stone, wood. This is actually for bowling alleys, I think. Okay, and I always have my rag in there, and I literally take a big lump of it, and I put it all over. Not too thick, you know, but nice enough, okay? It's a type of wax. And it settles into all the little nooks and crannies, okay? Let it sit for a few minutes, and then I literally came in with my buffing wheel, and I buffed. Now, you don't have to have this. You can use a cloth. You could even probably use a paper towel. I don't tend to use paper towels because they're a little rough, but like literally buff. And this actually puts a protective coating where was it? Okay, so let's see, where did I, where's my crack that I fixed? Hold on. Oh boy, wow. Okay, so here we go. Look in the camera where, there it is, okay. So there was a little bit there and there, but not too bad, huh? Look, you can't even put your fingernail in it. It's all filled in. This whole area right there, all the way around. Now, it is easier to camouflage because this is such a nubby turquoise. But considering the crack, the whole thing was falling apart and the crack was as deep as that and the whole tip of this was off. So this is where we just filled it in with the compound. You let that dry. And then you go in with different grits of sandpaper. Sand it until it's nice and smooth. And then you buff it out. And you have got a fixed stone. So I hope it wasn't too confusing. It's so much different to do it on a small scale, you know, with small little tools and stuff. But it's really not as confusing as I might have made it seem to be. It's really not. It's just a matter of getting the right type of materials, okay? So the hardest part, I think, for everyone, unless they have a donor stone that's the same color or the same stone like I did, I think that's going to be the biggest challenge. So it's either you need to get, like I said, a pigment, a colored pigment, which colored pigment is just paint. It's paint pigment. So any art supply store does, well, I don't know about any, a lot of art supply stores sell. And if this is something that you enjoy doing, you can do it with crafts and everything. So you can even order, you know, they sell them in little like gram bags, I think. You know, that sounds so horrible, but it is. It's just paint pigment. And you can get, you know, the basic colors, you know, yeah, and it works as not as well, but almost as well as an actual donor stone because it's just the color that you're putting in. So you're basically using your setting glue as the stone, and the pigment is just to color it, okay? Or like I said, you can get sand, and like a lot of craft hobby stores do sell colored sand because people use them in decorations and stuff. You just have to make sure you grind it really good. You could use it just with a spoon if you don't have a mortar pestle, a grinder. Don't use your good cooking stuff and don't destroy your stuff, okay? But literally, like I'm trying to do it as low key, literally a spoon and this is my kid's little plastic bowl. Who cares if it gets scratched up? Nothing major, you know? Everything here, you can get at a hardware store. Even some of the stuff you could probably get, I think even the dollar store sells colored sand if I'm not correct. I might be correct. And you might even be able to find like a little bag. Now, okay, when I say a host rock, like a donor, some rocks are extremely difficult, very dense and very hard. You're not going to be able to just crack it open and get your donor stuff, okay? So just be careful if you're going to try to go that route. I probably just wouldn't even do that, okay? But yeah, like a Dremel, a lot of people have them. You do not, as you see, you do not need to have it. This just makes the sanding go quicker for people who are like me. Okay, I'm sorry, I forgot to turn my phone off. You know, and so I don't want to sit here sanding a little thing. I'd rather just go and then it's done. Change out to the higher sand, you know. But you don't need that. You could just use good old-fashioned hand power. No big deal. So, you know, but you do need to have some sort of sealant. I prefer a paste wax because it doesn't yellow. It just gives the stone, it doesn't make it too shiny, like artificial shiny. Yeah, so you just have to play around. So this is the basics, and I hope this helps everyone out. So if anyone does have any questions, if they decide they want to attempt this, now I understand that these are not set rings in a ring. You can do the same exact thing to a ring. You know, if you have a stone that's in sterling, so whatever, you know, you just want to make sure that whatever adhesive, the epoxy does not get on your ring itself. So I would protect the ring, okay? You know, if there's prongs holding it, that's a whole nother story, okay? If there's prongs and like the cracks under the prong, you're gonna have to take the stone out. There's no way around that. You have to take the stone out of the ring. If it's just like, you know, one of those rings that are just set in the silver like this, and you've got a crack right across the top of it, you can do it inside the ring. You do not need to take it off. You just have to be aware of your surroundings and just be careful. No problem. It's the same exact thing. Same, mix the compound with a pigment or the donor rock, fill it in, get it as clean as possible, let it set completely. If whatever you're using, the epoxy resin says 8 hours, wait the 8 hours. If it says 4 hours, wait 5 hours, just to be careful, just to be safe. You don't want to ruin your ring, okay? But yeah, it's fun, it's good. It's nice to be able to fix something yourself. You feel accomplished. You don't have to pay someone else. And it's worth a try, you know? Anyway, thank you so much. My name is Kiersten Red. This is Kiersten Red Resale. Hopefully you learned a thing or two. If you have not yet subscribed, please do. It helps the channel out. It helps me out. It makes me feel a little bit better about myself. It sure does. Anyway, I hope everyone has an amazing day, week, hour, you know, month, year. Anyway, once again, Kiersten Red Resale. Thank you so much, and until next time. Oh, by the way, I have a sale this Thursday coming up. Buy it now. Same place, same time. I'll have a preview video. Anyway, have a blessed day. Bye-bye.